We'll call the meeting over. All rise, pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Look at all these neighbors. I love it when we have a little house.
Okay, if we can keep the chatter down to a minimum, please. Thank you. First announcement, we had an executive session on Monday, June 13th, to discuss personnel. Next, I'll go for the approval of the minutes for May 16th.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes on May 16th and June 6th.
We're doing both together?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Yes. Presentations. This is for the Yukon Ambulance Corp. Anybody here from the Yukon? Please come up.
Just wanted to thank you for having us here this evening.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Sure, Cindy Jarris.
Thank you.
And with me is Tammy Whiteman, our chief. So thank you for having us here this evening. We're going to be presenting on a municipal funding proposal. Euclid Ambulance, we're an EMS provider and training institute located in Exton. We serve your region. And I'm going to be queuing for somebody to be clicking over there as we move through so you can go ahead to the next page. So this is our mission and our vision. We are a nonprofit organization committed to life-saving and improving the quality of providing the 24-hour emergency medical response that we provide, outreach programs, education for the community members, and healthcare professionals. So really what that means is we provide training for everyone. It's not just healthcare. We provide free CPR training, babysitting certification, as well as EMT training and continuing ed programs. We have a vision that we strongly believe that UAC should be an active part of the community. So you're going to see us out at a lot of community events, responding to school opportunities for education, youth development, community health, and wellness programs to benefit all of the citizens and residents like yourself. Next page.
Right here.
So we have some challenges that we're facing right now, and one of those is an increased call volume. As we grow, as the communities grow that we serve, we have an increased need in the call volume that we're seeing and our response. At the same time, the return on the billing is kind of struggling to meet the true cost. So we have a gap there. And the cost of services and infrastructure continue to climb. As all you know, we have fuel issues, we have equipment costs that continue to climb, and the personnel and capital expenses. So next page, just to give you all an idea of the call volume. So the population of the service area here is about 4.4%. But the percentage of the total call volume is 4.8%. So we respond to just under 4,500 calls a year. Next page. This gives you the overview of our billing. We do have a gap that we're trying to close here. So on average, a basic life support call, so say for like a broken bone, broken leg, we would bill about $1,100 plus money to cover the transport, which is that loaded mile. ALS, that's your advanced life support, like a heart attack, that goes up to about $2,300 plus that loaded mile. And then we also do a lot of treatments without transport, so that's when we show up on a scene, but the individual may not need to be transported. But these are the costs, and on average, Our return, once we bill, is about $590. And I'm just going to defer to our chief to explain why those costs are where they are.
Sure. So one of the things that hasn't changed over the last 10 years is the payment from Medicare and Medicaid. For a Medicaid call, our average return is about $87, and for a Medicare call, it's about $340. One of the issues we run into is balance billing. We cannot balance bill a Medicaid patient, which means that whatever we get from Medicare or Medicaid is all we can bill. Some people do carry supplementals, and we do get a little bit from the supplemental, but not certainly enough to match that $2,300 bill that we would normally get to cover our costs. When you talk about a loaded mile, the loaded mile is we only get $14 a mile for the time that you're actually in the ambulance. So we get no payment for the mile there or back. And if it's a treat without transport, we get no payment on mileage at all. We do have a very good and aggressive biller. And so if you're public, non-Medicaid, Medicare, traditional insurance, we have about a 98% collection rate on that. So we're very lucky with that. One of the other things we see is that if you've ever dealt with an ambulance ride or hospital bill, the insurance company sends the check directly to the patient, and the majority of the time, we never see that check. They either cash it, and then we have to go after it for an aggressive payment model. So the cost of our calls have only gone up. I think our fuel last month was about $8,000. And we're trying to catch up and figure out how we bridge that gap between what we're actually getting from insurance. We don't see any change in the Medicare laws federally for the next 3 years. And if we do, they're averaging it might go up 2%. So that's where we stand with our billing. Next page, please. It's just an overview, cost of service and infrastructure. We like to think it's priceless. These are some of the pictures of our crew members, some of the education work we do, and a memorial 9/11 event that we just held on the 20th anniversary. Sorry. That was perfect. So the next page is just kind of how we solve it. So I do development work for Euclid. Most ambulance companies don't really get into fundraising, but as you can see with this gap that we have, we're starting to reach out to our community partners, corporations, and the next page kind of just gives a good overview of our annual funding. And townships fund us, so that's part of why we're here. Their funding is really to help match the increase in the projected growth and the emergency services funding gap. We go after some grants in the community, and a big part of what we do too is that subscription drive. So please support us when you get the mailer. It's going to be coming out probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And once you subscribe, then whatever your insurance doesn't cover, we're able to cover the rest of the bill. Right, Tammy? Yes, but so people always say, what about the subscription drive? You're telling me that you're going to cover my costs now. But overall, in the subscription, that's one of our biggest fundraisers. So I think this year we gained about $330,000 from our subscription drive. I think we mail out 25,000, and we have about 3,500 subscribers. So the more subscribers we can get, the better off we are. And especially for our older generation, ball lift assist for a live treatment transports, we normally bill $125. If you're a member, you get no bill at all. So it really does benefit our subscribers a lot. You can see that one bill, you can gain a lot from that one subscription.
Next page. So just to kind of tailor it to you all here in West Vincent, you can see the breakdown here is the contribution by township. This is a 5-year average. So West Vincent, like I mentioned, we're in Exton. We're actually located right there at 100 and it's escaping me, 113. So Upper Euclid, big portion of who we serve, Euclid, West Whiteland, and then you can see how it progresses. So the contribution over 5 years is about 1.5%, but the total call volume over 5 years is a little bit more than that. So what we're trying to propose here is a little more equitable formula for the townships to fund the EMS services that are so needed in our communities to keep everybody safe.
So one of the things Euclid has never had to do, and it's new for EMS, townships are used to funding their police and fire, and they are mandated to do so. So EMS is unique in finally asking for some support. Up until 5 years ago, Euclid had no debt at all. We had a really good billing and really good return. Part of that is that we had a volunteer staff. We are an all-paid staff, very few volunteers now, and the cost of keeping those providers, training them, and paying them is going up. So I came from the southern end of Chester County, Medic 94. My boss, Bob Hotchkiss, did a funding formula model with his 13 townships just for his ALS service. It took him about 5 years to implement that township funding, but what it did was he created a formula across the board that every township knew what they were contributing, and they would know what that static rate went over the years. It's based on population and call volume, very fair numbers. And so what we'd like to do, and this is the first year, actually last year I think was the first year our executive director ever asked a formal number from a township, and all our townships across the board. This year we're going out and asking our townships to get together and decide what that funding model looks like, so they know how to prepare their budget going forward to help sustain us as a cost increase. So if you go through and scroll into the back pages of that funding model for us, I think it's a couple pages in. This is just sort of an overview of our capital expenses, and then that next page is our funding model. So this is, I think one more, sorry about that. So it's basically broken into just what we're looking at, population, what our call volume is, and what our expectation is of our townships. We're not asking for a whole, we certainly understand that the townships have a budget. They have to figure out how to fit us in. In addition to that funding capital model, we're also looking for capital expenses. And you say, okay, well, what does that cost? I can tell you that we have 5 ALS monitors. They're going to be out of service in 3 years. They're $42,000 a piece now, and I think in probably 3 years we're looking at $50,000 a piece. Our ambulances run anywhere from $280,000 to $300,000, and we're looking at buying 3. So our capital expenses are only going up. As you all know, everything is going up in cost, and it's very hard to get one. I just placed an order for 3 ambulances. I won't see the first one for a year, and we're statically getting them over the next 3 years if the parts are there and they can actually get the materials. So then our costs go up to keep our vehicles on the road, which some of them are over 12 years old. I can tell you in the last 2 years, salaries have increased. If anybody owns a business, people are demanding more salaries, more time off, better benefits. So all those costs are increasing too. And one of the things that we encounter as Euclid Ambulance is people assume that we're township employees when we're a completely 100% nonprofit organization. So our ask is our township. We were very lucky that when we did this initial proposal and went around and talked to our townships that Tony from Upper Euclid, the township manager from Upper Euclid, had been in the southern end for Medic 94 when Bob Hotchkiss did his proposal, so he was very familiar with it. And he actually led the township supervisors in a meeting to get together to discuss what that formula might look like. So what we're asking really is your support to keep doing that so we can look at an increased funding model. Are there any questions?
Sure. What does this equal to when somebody subscribes? What does it mean for
So,
Really?
you want to say that?
Yeah, it's yearly, and it's based on individuals to seniors get a discount, individuals get a discount, and then there's family members as well, but
Few numbers.
say around $100.
Okay,
Yeah,
just curious.
for the whole year.
Okay.
So then if you took the ambulance ride, right?
Got it.
And you, had a copay,
Yeah.
you wouldn't pay that.
Got it. Okay, that's good to know.
So it's also, I really like that, one of the questions we get all the time, especially with our seniors, is I didn't want to call 911 because I was afraid of the bill.
Yeah.
They have that security knowing that they're never going to see a bill. Right? And that's a huge, huge thing for them. Because I hate when I get there and they're like, I didn't want to call, I waited 12 hours, So I don't want a bill. And our biller will work with you, even if it's $5 a month, right? To try to figure out how we make that work for our community. Any other questions?
I read that there's an ambulance service that's going out of business in
Yes.
Chester County.
They're not
How's that
going-
to affect you?
It's going to affect our call volume. So last year we hit just under 4,500 calls. This year we're projecting well over 5,000 calls. I took over a chief a year ago. We have 2 vehicles on the truck during the day. I can now run 4 vehicles during the day and we'll still be busy. The service you're talking about is Tower Health Medic 93. It didn't go out of business. What happened was Tower Health decided that that area of coverage that they were providing just ALS coverage Medic Chase was not a good payer mix. And when Brandywine Hospital shut down, they were feeding those patients back into their hospital system and they weren't anymore. They were going to Chester County or Paoli or up to Reading. And so they shifted their ALS service to where their Tower Health hospitals were, which is Phoenixville and Reading. And so they gave 90-day notice that they were pulling out of the Coatesville area. What will happen is Downingtown has already announced they're going to move into Callan and have a substation. So we'll probably wind up covering Downingtown a little bit more, and we'll probably be putting up another truck to manage that increased call volume, which of course to me is another crew, more equipment, more miles, more gas. We will do everything we can always to cover our territory, but it will shift the model until someone else picks up that payer mix in that service area. And I know there's some bids out right now, but that just does take time. And that service shuts down September 1st. Any other questions? Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the key group presentation on the Bennett property.
Just in case.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison Zaro of the Department of Highway Right
Do you want to,
We're here this evening to give you a presentation about the Bennett property, which is located, it has frontage on both Chester Springs Road and Conestoga Road. It's approximately 185 acres. It's also on the border of West Pikeland. There's a small piece of West Pikeland, but the majority is West Pikeland. With me this evening is Mark McGonigal from the McKee Group, and he is going to walk you through a presentation, just talking to you about options for development of the site. And McKee currently has the property under agreement. They are the equitable owner. You'll see on the slide that's up there right now, the Bennett property is highlighted in blue. Right below it in red is the Ewing tract, just to give everyone sort of orient them before Mark gets started here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark McGonigal. I am with the McKee Group, and I'll just give you a quick bio on the McKee Group. It'll be very short and sweet. McKee, it's a privately held company. We're celebrating our 75th anniversary this year. We are real estate developers, but we're also diversified, and thank God we are, and we wouldn't be here with what happened to our world back in 07 and 08. I don't want everybody here to think that we're here the first time to the township. We've been talking to the township, John in particular, for probably the last 12 months, 14 months. But we all know that the world we've been living in for the past 2.5 years is a different world. So things have changed and so forth. And we came back and we've been continuing to have conversations with John and coming up with ideas and what our thought process is with the property. Tom Bennett knows we're here tonight and is in full support of us being here in terms of trying to, what is the best option for this property, for you being the township and hopefully for the McKee Group. And John, in John's defense, John put a heck of a task in front of me to, hey, Mark, get together a presentation. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Get together a presentation.
Wait, somebody's asking, who's John?
John Granger.
Yeah, raise your hand, John.
My apologies. So the presentation that we have up here right now, we're going to go through is a presentation of what you actually can do under the existing zoning on the property. Also another plan for a active adult 55 retirement plus community. But it also shows you the pros and cons and versus of under the existing zoning, how the property will be developed. And everybody has to please understand that this is very, very, I use the word very early on in anything we might do here. This is 2 to 3 years away from us getting our approvals and hopefully doing what we think is best for your community. So under option 1, and we can bring that up, under the existing zoning today, you can do, option 1 is the by right plan under the existing zoning today. And when we were in conversations previously with the township, some of their bullet points back to us were view sheds along Chester Springs Road and 401. Also, what would be the fiscal implication in terms of the by right plan versus a 55 plus active adult community, walking trails on the project, a conservation easement on the farm, down off the 401 and so forth. So this option 1 is a by right plan which encompasses 50 single family homes. This is a plan under the existing zoning today, under tier 3, that we feel you could do.
Excuse me, just for orientation.
Sure.
So the upper left exit entrance on Chester Springs, that's the existing driveway of the Bennett property?
Yes.
Okay.
Clarify the ingress and egress, where it's going to be on, where's Chester Springs Road going to be? Very top. Chester Springs. So there is egress and ingress.
Ted, he's
There's
gonna
no
allow
to come in.
Tell him to sit up.
Get a little.
He's bringing in the chair.
Yeah, yeah. What are one of the things?
The lower part of the, I wish we could blow it up. It's Conestoga Road, which is 401, down at the bottom part of the property. The top part of the property, where you see the pond, the blue pond, okay, that is Chester Springs Road.
There's no buffer between the road and what's going to be developed.
There'll be a buffer following under the existing zoning. This follows what the existing zoning today
It was
allows.
empty already, that's great.
You're talking about 40 homes,
50.
that could allow the Chester Springs Road alone.
50 single family on the entire property.
There's some at the bottom there?
Yes, there is. That's on 401.
So there's 10 down there, you're putting 40 at the top.
Yeah.
So you're gonna knock down that.
The barn, yeah, the barn and the horse farm goes.
2 and 3 cars per house.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna put 40 houses on there. 2 or 3 cars per house on the Chester Springs Road.
Yes.
I'm not being sarcastic.
No, neither am I. That's why.
Can we please keep on the chat down?
That's why I wanted to say this is very early on in the whole process in terms of traffic reports and so forth. We were asked to put together a presentation in terms of what you can do under the existing zoning, what you could do, not under the existing zoning, but what you could do under an active adult 55 plus community that we would like to do. So that's where we'll get to. That's on the next slide. But There also is,
What is the definition of a very large private lot?
here the existing zoning is 140,000 square foot, so that's about an acre and a half. Acre and a half lots.
An acre.
Yes.
That's very large.
Yes.
Actually,
It's
2 acres, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's 2 it's over 2.
2 acres?
Okay, if you also look here on the by right plan under the existing zoning, what you end up here is approximately with 50% open space on the property. And again, this is all early on, the calculations that under the existing zoning, this is what we feel you can do today. I know you're gonna have a bunch of questions, but if we can go through it, and I'll try and answer any question you might have as best we can. I also have Matt Hammond, who's here from traffic, Matt Brown from Arrow Consulting regarding DEP and farming of the agricultural fields and so forth, and also Eric Hitzel, who is did our fiscal report, meaning how does fiscal work versus one community versus the other. And you'll see a slide, very summary slide that shows you the difference in what it does for the township. This option 2 property is an active adult 55 plus community that is 68% open space. All the view sheds are maintained on Chester Springs Road and 401, which is Conestoga Road. The farm down also off of 401 is a township conservation easement that we did with the township. Walking trails are involved, community package. But the big thing here is that this is an active adult 55 plus community with no impact on the schools. And if you kind of drive the site and the way we have the site laid out now, it kind of sits where you really don't even know it's there, to be honest with you. I mean, in terms of here, 280. Well, that's why I'm going to go back to what I said earlier regarding very early on here. With a traffic report will tell you exactly the difference. And from a preliminary traffic study that we did, the by right plan that you can do versus this active adult plan, 55 plus, it's pretty much of a wash from a traffic standpoint. I'm just, okay. The unit sizes, they're carriage homes, villas, and single family. And
Excuse me. We're back to chatter again. I asked before. Please keep it down. Let's have some order here. Let's raise hands if we have a question. Stand up, state your name, your address, and Mark will then answer that question. Okay? Thank you.
Can we go through
I just have one question with what's up there.
with that
Just-
plan?
Yeah, just the entrance and exit looks like it's different than the fire rate. Is it still entrance and exits on Chester Spring Road, or has that been changed in this proposal?
So the access point is up off of Chester Springs Road,
On Chester Springs Road?
right up at the top of Chester Springs Road.
Okay, let's get through the presentation, and then at the end, we can ask questions then. Because we'll be here all night at this rate. So please, thank you.
So that's the active adult plan, and in terms of the walking trails, the open space, the conservation easement, the amenity package, and there's no impact on the schools, there's no school-age children here. It's a 55 plus community, very similar to the project that we're currently building called the Reserve at Marsh Creek, which is so the next slide up is the fiscal impact in terms of versus the by right plan, meaning the market rate plan, we call that, versus the age qualified plan, 55 plus community. It shows you the fiscal impact. everybody can see what the numbers are there. They kind of speak for themselves. Next page is the traffic generation comparison. And this is where it leads back to, like I said, we did a very quick, down and dirty traffic study just because we wanted to get to the meeting and make our presentation and then react to what we need to react to. And this is where, if you see there, the traffic versus by right plan versus the active adult plan, it's pretty much a wash. And the additional yield in the active adult community would generate more funds for the municipality, meaning intersections, a wish list that the township might have in terms of some needs from a fiscal impact that we would be able to help out with. The last, not the last page, but the open space comparison just shows you the option one, the by right plan. It's approximately 50% open space, and the option two, the active adult plan, is 68% open space. The agricultural passive open space that is on the active adult plan, we just put some pictures up there in terms of the township and what that actually looks like, not only in West Vincent, but in Upper Yukon. The potential farming of the agricultural passive open space goes through a list of things in terms of what you can do per DEP, and if there's some questions regarding that, Matt Brown from Arrow is here. Tells you what you can do in terms of the crop of choice. All your farmers have to be approved by the Upper Yukon Township Municipal Authority. There's no exceptions, the protection of the long-term integrity of the drip fields and so forth. So, and then the last one is the map that we brought up in the beginning. It kind of shows you where Bennett is and the Ewing tract, which is in West Vincent also. And approximately on the Ewing tract, there's about 360 units on that property. And we purposely put up the Green Co-ed. That's where the Green, as we all know, the West Vincent Green Co-ed and the open space people have been accumulating that ground for quite some time. So that's the presentation in terms of what our idea is and why the by right plan is one thing and the active adult plan is another. So I'm sure you have a bunch of questions and I'll answer them as best I can. And if I can, hopefully one of our professionals can, but there's a lot of questions you might want to ask us that we might not be able to answer right now just because we're very early on in terms of everything that has to be done to this piece of property. From testing to, I mean, we have not made any kind of formal presentation to the township. Our philosophy and what we do is let's go talk to the township, present our ideas, see what they say, and then ask them if we can do a presentation to the public. And that's why we're here tonight. And like I said, this wasn't something that we were talking about or trying to figure out for the last 30 days. This is something that it probably took us 6 months to get this together by all the different agencies we got to talk to and do our own homework in terms of the property. So with that being said,
Mark, if you could recognize this one back here on the right for the handout. She's been.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sure. State your name, please, for the record.
My name is Kate Riddle. I live at 2455 Chester Springs Road, which is directly across the street from the Bennett property, for 26 years. I'm an attorney. My favorite color is blue. I just want to know how much did the keeper pay for property? It's currently under agreement.
It's currently under contract.
Just in case there, so is there a chance there would be a competing bid? So one of the land.
I'm sure the open space people are more than welcome to put some sort of value on the property.
Okay, so it's not, you don't own it.
We have it under, it's our call, whether we deal with the open space people. It's under contract with us.
Okay, yeah. But you can't give any numbers.
That's a public document once the transaction closes. but we're not. Yeah. Not that I mean, just, I can't do it.
Donna Rubin, I live in, Livingston, and, just what I've seen missing from this, everybody's talking about traffic, but you haven't presented anything on the environmental impact, the waterways. We have terrible water pressure at Weatherstone right now. The roads are overpopulated, you're gonna add more traffic to it, okay? You're all talking globally about global warming and how, if you've ever watched the movie Kiss the Ground, how important the earth is to absorbing carbon dioxide or carbon emissions.
Right.
So I'm kind of aghast that we're even considering this at all. So sewage lines, waterways, Pickering, the French and Pickering Waterway Trust, none of that has been addressed in this presentation.
Well, and that goes back to what I said at the very beginning in terms of, is that we're very early on this project. Have we done environmental work? Yes, we have. Have we looked at wetlands? Yes, we have. Have we figured out?
I used to live in Pickering Meadows, and I know the problems we've had down there with all the deep things that we had to dig just to absorb the water and how fast the water came, and it wasn't even enough down there. We've got the same problem up in Weatherstone, and now you're gonna add more to this, and then where's the sewers gonna go? Where's the water gonna go? Right?
Right.
So that's a big issue.
How is it?
Plus you're adding more cars and you're taking away ground, right? So where's all those carbon emissions gonna go?
The approvals that we have to get on this project are approvals that will, like I said, take, if I started this property today, and I'm just using today as a date, I'm 2.5 to 3 years away, and that's because of all the different agencies that we just mentioned that we deal with, and trying to prove to them in terms of that we can do what we think we can do. And is there sometimes where you meet endangered species and have to address that stuff? Yes. So sometimes you run into wetlands that change your buffer to 50 feet to 100 feet? Yes. But that's stuff we have to deal with. And then come a point in time that if the property doesn't make sense to the McKee group any longer, then it just doesn't make sense. But right now, we're doing what we think we can do and have to do, and that's why we're here tonight. So, Julia.
Hi, Julia Brandell. I'm at 2472 Flowing Springs Road, but my father, who I'm here on behalf of as well, is 2440 Chester Springs Road, which is that little itty bitty notch up on top of that property. The little one that you can barely see that's gray. I just have a few questions. So a couple of things that I know with an adult active community, a 55 plus community, if we had Upper Euclid ambulance here or Euclid ambulance, how does an adult community affect call volume for the ambulance?
You know, I hate to keep on saying that we're really early on this.
Well,
I mean, I can.
Do you know the statistic?
If you give me your name, I'll be more than happy to get that information
Okay.
from some of our other properties. We probably have that on the preserve.
Well, they would have been able to tell us if they were still here. They would have said
Yeah.
an adult community is a certain percentage. Like,
I don't want to go ahead and try and answer it. That's not going to be. If I can answer the question, I'll answer. If I can't, I'm going to tell you.
Okay, so are you planning on having your own on-site septic treatment here? Or where is the septic going to go?
Now, this, if everything goes as planned, if it's the 50 lot single family, it'll be everything on site. If it's the active adult plan, it'll most likely be tied into the Upper Euclid Township Municipal Authority,
Okay.
just like the Ewing tract.
And where will the water come from?
Public water.
Public water? Okay. So a couple of other questions. I'm looking at the active adult community.
Sure.
Because in my opinion, it makes more sense for several reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, taxes are part of it, not dumping kids into the schools
Sure.
is all part of it. It financially, fiscally makes more sense. It's more homes, it's more taxes. What is the purchase price what's your price point going to be on your purchase price?
On the carriage homes, we're thinking probably they will be opening the doors in the mid fives, high fives. The single families will be in the mid sixes to open the door.
Okay, and what's the percentage? Because I saw 285.
I don't
You don't have
have
that
the
number
mix. No, I have it. It's just a matter of if there's two. I believe it's Hold on one second, let me see if I can get that. The glasses aren't that strong. If I had to guess, it's probably 60% single family, 40% the carriages, but I can get you exactly, it should be on that plan that's up there.
Your
Colin, you
proposal-
have the other, you have the other plan.
Will this PowerPoint be available on the?
It'll be online tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Tomorrow
So
morning.
everybody can go back and look at it again.
So, Julia, the recording of the meeting and these materials will be online tomorrow morning.
I can't see that.
Yeah, nobody can see what's going on up there. So is there any reason in this plan that you decided to have all of your access on Chester Springs Road as opposed to putting it onto Route 401?
When we spoke to the township, one of their big concerns was the view sheds in terms of 401, the conservation easement down there on the farm where the horses are and so forth, and the view sheds along Chester Springs. So we concentrated all of the development close to the Ewing track, where already the development is, and leave the rest of the property open space. So all the development would kind of run together, meaning this project along with Ewing and everybody else along 401. I think somebody made a statement to me when we first talked to the township, and I don't remember who it was, that, hey, Mark, we really don't want to see a boulder moved on or touched on Chester Springs Road. And we listened and we said, okay, and they said, we want you to kind of be here, but we don't want to even know you're here. So it was our job to try and figure it out in terms of creating a bunch of open space and concentrating the development in the one area. That's why you have 68% open space. And if you look at the property down there where the conservation easement is, where the farm is, that whole natural buffer blocks out the whole view up on top of where the development would potentially be.
Right, yeah, I understand that. So on Chester Springs Road, where I see you've got a line of trees, is there a berm there or anything so that when the burn's in and the trees are planted, the people that live over there are just gonna look at some pretty trees? Or are they gonna be actually looking at the back of those carriage homes?
You know what, we deal with that all the time, and that's your landscape plan. So the township will direct us in terms of, you have to create a buffer here. They'll take ideas that they get from the public in terms of, hey, this is what we think. We'd like to create a huge buffer here so we don't even see the back of the houses. That's something that comes down the road in the very near future when we're planning.
Right, and I do know that we're required to have two accesses. You have to have two accesses.
Emergency access.
Is it possible to have one access and the second be an emergency access, not for daily use?
You know, I'm not a traffic guy, so I'm going to throw that at my traffic guy who's sitting there, and hopefully he can just chime in and help me out there.
Are you the traffic guy?
I am.
All right, traffic guy.
So, if you can, again, a good question with respect to two access points.
Access points, correct.
So, as Mark had said, again, I can provide a little bit more, I guess, color with respect to the traffic. But we are so early on, as Mark has said numerous times, there are going to be many documents, many studies, a lot of analysis, traffic counts, things of that nature that we'll be able to put together and provide to the township, to the residents for review if this project moves forward. With that said, in terms of the amount of traffic an age qualified or age restricted development generates, is significantly less than a single family home. And I think someone had mentioned earlier, single family homes have 2 or 3 or even 4 cars, with kids driving, things of that nature. So in terms of looking at one access point, is it possible? It is possible. And having another access point as an emergency access, it's possible. And it's something that we will look at. Again, if we're able to move forward, it's something that we'll look at and taking it into account, whether or not this site can be provided for one access and that access, being where the existing farm road is today. We're well aware of Chester Springs Road and the narrowness, and the site distance issues, and the curves in the road, both vertical and horizontal curves. And as Mark said, obviously, larger scale development brings the ability to provide more resources gives us the ability to provide for improvements if necessary to increase sight distance and visibility at the intersection of 401 and Chester Springs Road. So those are all the things that we're going to look at as we go through this process, documentation, analysis, things of that nature that will apply throughout the process. And again, it's a long process.
Yeah, because I think like the number one complaint is going to be from everybody in here, other than the fact that they don't want it, because it can, we say right here, West Vincent doing what's right to protect what's left, right on the front page there. So the biggest complaint from everybody is going to be Chester Springs Road. It's already narrow. We already have increased volume coming from Fire Station after they opened up the bridge, and that's going to be your number one complaint here are the people that live on Chester Springs Road as opposed to anybody over here on 401.
It probably won't make much of a difference tonight, but I can say I've been doing this 27 years. And the two biggest complaints for any project I've ever worked on is stormwater and traffic. And they are issues that we are aware of. We know that there are issues that people have out there today. We know there are issues that people have with respect to change. Whenever there's a property being developed, our job is to try to allay those concerns to the extent possible, to leave the roads, at least from a traffic perspective, better than we got here, whether it's improvements, whether it's increased safety and things of that nature. And those are things that we're going to do, again, sooner or later.
Any chance with the increased volume that there's going to have to be a light at the corner of 401 and Chester Springs Road?
It's a good question. It's a possibility. What I will tell you, though, is that the lights, traffic lights in Pennsylvania, traffic signals are owned by municipalities, but they're permitted through PennDOT. So PennDOT's the clearing house for any traffic signal. So PennDOT has certain criteria they set forth, that's called warrants. You have to meet or exceed those warrants in order to have the ability to put in the traffic signal. So when, again, moving forward, when we do the analysis, we do the traffic counts, we look at the distribution of traffic, the volumes, we'll have to look at certain intersections and determine how those intersections operate. If those intersections warrant certain devices, traffic signals, whatever it may be, then those are things that we'll explore. But we have to meet those criteria. It's not a close or, hey, we may be there at one point. It's pretty clear with PennDOT, you have to meet and exceed as many of those warrants as possible in order to even have an opportunity to apply a traffic signal.
Joy, you finished? You're finished.
I'm done.
Yeah. You and thank you.
Yes, hey, hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Linguist. I own the Three Kings Farm, right across Chester Springs Road from the Bennett property. It's an 18-acre plot that's under conservation easement. And I have three concerns. The first has to do with process. This has been in the works for a year, but the community has not been involved.
Let me stop in defense of everybody up there. The ball was in our court to do our homework in terms of we had instructions. The township did exactly what, in my opinion, they asked me to do. So the ball is, if we're going to blame somebody for communication, it's me, but we were gathering information to produce something like this, to get from different agencies and so forth. And in terms of getting in front of the township with the whole COVID process of what's been going on, it's crazy in our end. So I'm not making excuses. So,
That's fine. But going forward then, given the fact that there has been no notice in our communication, which could have been done through Zoom and various other processes, email, I'd like to know exactly what you plan to do to keep the community involved going forward from this point. And I'm not just talking about township meetings. I'm talking about a community group that can come and consult with you. That's number one. Number two, what you've given us here is two options. The first was a red herring, and you know it. That was a red herring. There is continual plans, and I'm absolutely happy with you, Shed, because I own the property across the street, and I'm very happy that you're going in that direction. But that first plan with its terrifically bad fiscal projections, I doubt that is the only option compared to what the plan is here. So I'd like to know what is the continuum plans beyond the dichotomous choice that you're offering the community. Because there is more than a dichotomous choice when it comes to development. And the third thing is I'd like to know more about the fiscal impact. The numbers you've given us here, you've asked us to just swallow hook, line, and sinker. I don't believe it. Development takes an enormous bite out of the community when it comes to roads, when it comes to infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. And I appreciate the fact this is a 55-plus community, and there will be no necessarily impact on the schools. But often 55-plus communities don't want to pay school taxes, so we have the pressure against the schools in that respect. So I think we have to be very careful about the fiscal impacts, and I think that's the board's job, of course, to evaluate what the fiscal impacts are, because they could be very much fall upon the shoulders of existing taxpayers. So process, why just a dichotomous red herring choice, and what are the real fiscal impacts beyond what you did? Thank you.
Let me try and address it if I could. From the economy, you're talking about the first initial plan, like the 50 single families. We always try and, when we do presentations like this, to show not only the township, but the public that this is what can be done on the property under the existing zoning today. Until
Worst case scenario, though, is what you give us. Ruining the view sheds, et cetera. Isn't there a better case scenario?
The better case scenario, if I had to pick between the two plans, it's an active adult plan, 55-plus community, which we think is a great plan. I mean, go ahead.
My point is, there's not just two plans.
Well,
We weren't involved in the
under the existing
conversation.
zoning, you can do other things on this property.
I understand what you
If you
can
look
do. I
at the
understand
zoning,
your
it gives you a
property
list
rights.
of what you, no, it gives you a list of what you
I
can do.
understand.
We don't have any interest in terms of some of the other uses. Okay, if somebody else does and wants to try and go make a deal with Tom Bennett. But right now, we currently have the project and this property under contract. So we're doing what we think we have to do and our obligation.
Is Tom willing to hear someone else come in?
Excuse me, you're speaking out of turn.
Sorry.
There's other people that have their hands raised.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I spoke to Tom before. I wouldn't be here tonight if I didn't have Tom Bennett's blessing in terms of, he's in full support of what he did.
What about someone from the outside? What about a buyer, not a builder? How about a buyer, not a builder?
If a buyer wants to come and, or talking about an open space, like lands trust people and so forth, yeah, I mean, they'd have to deal with us.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. The people who did the Brinko deal and so forth, sure. Sure, that's always an option.
The woman behind you, yes. Please.
Joan Riddle, 2455 Chester Springs Road, and I'm back to the traffic thing. I don't understand. The only thing I hear about not having ingress or egress out of 401 is because you want to keep a nice view. Well, they have a nice view just with a driveway going in, and instead of having all this traffic on Chester Springs Road. It can't handle two-way traffic now. There's water on both sides of the road. We've fought this issue for Eagle Farms, and it's horrible. I mean, the other day, people were walking and someone honked at them and told them to get out of the way. There's no sidewalk, there's no traffic, and there's no one else on the road, but there's not enough room for two-way traffic as it is. So my question is, I don't understand why you aren't using 401 for any plan. I mean, besides having it look pretty. You can have it look pretty with a driveway.
So again.
A boulevard.
Sure. I can understand all the concerns. One thing to keep in mind though is that put out of your mind the way the road looks today or operates today. If there's additional.
We like it. We like it the way it is. I don't want it. You don't want it to change.
My point to that is that you talk about a narrow road and handle two-way traffic today. Well, it does handle two-way traffic.
No, it doesn't. People have to pull over, they cut up my lawn. No, it doesn't handle cars.
You're completely wrong. Okay, so, no. What I'm saying is, it is a two-way road. It may not be able to have.
It doesn't handle, it does not handle.
I'm wrong word choice. It's a two-way road. It maybe it's not wide enough to handle two-way traffic.
And we don't so why are roads? We like it a lane.
So what I'm saying is there are certain improvements that we need to do,
Take
or may
more
do
land.
to improve the operation of the road as it exists today. Getting to your question about the
But
applicant.
I'm saying, but can't you try to look at having ingress or egress from 401? Or is that because it's a state road, it involves more, I mean.
So let me answer the question.
Okay.
So as far as 401 is concerned, obviously that alternative plan, the by right plan showed an access to 401, right? Because there was a residential portion that existed here. This, if you're, see, everyone's familiar, but the road, the property goes up the slope. through this area. So it acts as a natural barrier to the view of the residential to the rear. So cutting a road through there obviously opens that up, and because of the grades that go up on the property, you have to open it up a lot more than just cutting the road through. Not impossible, right? I will tell you though that Chester Springs Road 401 is a state roadway. So obviously, if you're going to take access to a state roadway, you need permits. You need the approval of PennDOT to do so. One of the criteria that PennDOT looks at when permitting an access point is, do you have access to another lesser roadway? What I mean by lesser is I mean lesser volume, lesser classification, those type of things, to determine if it's appropriate for them to allow access to their state road, or you should be taking access to the lesser classification road, which in this instance is Chester Springs Road. And I'm not saying it's impossible. This is a plan. This is something that we're going to look at. We're going to work on as we move forward, assuming we move forward. We will look at the possibility of access to 401, but I want to be clear that it's not as simple as just cutting the road through based on the grades and based on the existing berm, earthen berm that exists there out there today. But it is something we can look at, sure.
Listen, I know there's a lot of questions to deliver, and I appreciate that. We're going to have to give this another full meeting, so we plan on having a workshop first Monday of August. So bring your questions, they're all valid, they're all good, and they all hold a lot of weight. They'll give the, okay. And I'll give these gentlemen here and this man time to get their ducks in a row and think about the questions and see if they can't come up with a better idea. So let me make this the last question.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be quick. My name is Matthew Sheltoff, and my wife and I own 2619 Chester Springs Road and also 2647 Chester Springs Road. I'm also an attorney, and my favorite color is blue as well. But with that being said, there's something there's a couple things that I'm actually not hearing being talked about tonight. I'd love to hear you address it in August, for you as well. I do not do anything with elder care. So to me, I said, what is a 55 and up community other than the signs that I see all around? I want to learn about it. And so I had about, 4 hours to research it. And it was interesting to me that there are, just on eastern Pennsylvania, 153 55 and up communities. In Chester County, 50 of those. Right? So then I said, well, what does that do to a community when we have a 55 and up community in place? Well, interestingly enough, according to surveys that are done by people who are smarter than me, it increases the cost of living, the cost of services, and actually brings down the amount that people get paid for their jobs in that area. So I see that, and then I question it, why in Chester County, in West Vincent, in a top-tier facility, what do we stand to benefit from a 55 community, other than some negativity? If we were a community that was a lower tier, then it seems like a 55 and up community could actually benefit. I don't envy your position, I don't envy your position. My second point then would be done. I don't know if you've ever driven up and down Chester Springs Road, I don't know. Terrific. Then you may have seen myself or my neighbors walking on Chester Springs Road. I think the one thing that everybody's missing, and I'm not saying it's the biggest point, but it's a significant point, is that Chester Springs Road, I think, is one of the most walked roads in West Vincent. And that's not being considered. So I would encourage everyone, powers that be, to do some sort of foot traffic type of survey to see that. Because once you widen the road, then you have 500 plus cars driving up and down, you're going to need a lot more ambulance service. So I think at least tonight you're seeing people come out that had about 6 hours worth of notice, right? So as this grows, you're going to get a lot more opposition. And this is not a threat, but you're going to see a lot of significant opposition, and you're going to see people like myself and people like my neighbors request to be parties to this action. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. With that, we're going to conclude the presentation. Thank you all for coming. And please keep in mind, first Monday in August, and we're going to be back here just again. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. I always. Yeah. Julia? Julie and all the ladies sitting in the front row there were all applauding. I came in early.
Can we have some order? Julia, please. Gentlemen in the back, we're going to start our regular meeting. Okay, thank you. Let's see, next on the list is the announcements. There was a $250 grant from Chester County for an improvement.
$250,000.
Oh, that's all?
Did I
You said
not?
250.
50,000?
1,000.
Yeah. $250,000 grant from the county for Obalani Park. Thanks to John Granger, our manager here, did a fantastic job in acquiring that for the township. And number 4, then under announcements, another $100,000 grant from the Conservation District for improvements along the Kempton Road through the Low Volume Road Program. Once again, thank you to John Granger for his diligent work on this. Next is police reports. Anybody here from the police department? I thought I saw someone there.
It's around if we need it.
Okay, we can go back to this one. Thank you. All right, bills list.
Don't give it anything. Do you want to see that? Give a quick synopsis of the
It's okay.
previously.
Yeah, we'll do that. So the number of calls for service were 274, number of crimes investigated 11, number of arrests 3, which were public drunkenness, driving under the influence, and driving under the influence. Number of accidents investigated is 9. And one thing that I noted on here was there's a, it's not in these facts, but there's a huge uptick in traffic stops from last year. Last year we had 30 traffic stops, and this year so far we have 79. So that's a
I'd say we're more aggressively policing, and our police continue to take training courses, and that's also in this report.
Okay. Next.
I can start with a motion.
Go ahead.
I can make the motion to approve the bills list in the amount of $291,801.51.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, I will second that there's just one bill in there that I'm going to recuse myself on, because it's a very small $300 bill that was through my company, that was not through me, and I didn't have anything to do with it, but it is through my company. So I
Okay,
wanted to mention
that was
that.
for
Okay, but I will
signs
second
for the
rest.
township
For the
community.
community, yeah.
Okay. So the board might be doing. Okay, any discussion from the audience? George, state your name and state your
George
name.
Galtinas, 1450 Hollywood. Is this, can we post this on the website, like,
What, the bills list?
yeah,
Sure.
I mean, we do it before the meeting?
Yeah, it was I thought it had been done on Friday, I'm sorry. Still working on that process.
Okay.
All right. I'll get it done.
We're getting better. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Moving on to the treasurer's report.
The ending of May 31st, the ARPA, which is the COVID funds, balance is $309,485.88. Capital equipment, $377,895.64. Capital project reserve, $2,428,214.40. Capital road, $4,952,134.47. Escrow, $307,640.08. General fund, $2,413,290.03. Liquid fuels, $355,051.35. Open space, $2,507,171.04. Sewer fund, $90,600.44 for a total balance of $13,431,997.45, which is $487,683.90 more than last year at this time.
Any questions? Okay.
I don't have a question, but I do.
State your name, please.
John Elbridge,
And your address.
1634 Hilltop Road.
Thank you.
I noticed on the reports here that in our general fund, we have income in excess of $1 million. The budget is for $73,000 for the year. It just
What?
seems, okay, that's what I say. The income is $1 million.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on. Manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, the work on the repair of the Kimberton Road Bridge should be done within the next 2 weeks. I'm going to tell you, it's a very well, the bridge looks fantastic. They're going to do the road work and shoring under the bridge sometime in the next 2 weeks. They're nearly complete with the Weatherstone paving project. For those of you who might be interested, it's a new product we're using this year. Looks very nice. It's a great road product. The road surface will last 10 to 15 years, longer than normal. The Kimberton Road drainage project will begin within the next 2 weeks. It'll start at the eastern end of Kimberton Road. The board will take award bid, I believe, for the Fellowship Road Bridge later on this evening, and that project probably won't start until late July. That's all I have to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, move on. Old business, approval resolution, cash escrow agreement, Hampshire Properties and the lease of the Hankin Escrow.
I could make a motion to approve resolution 21-2022, cash escrow agreement for the Hampshire Properties in the amount of $147,732.74.
Second that.
Do we want to explain this real quickly, John?
Yes. As the Hampshire Properties acquired the town center development, the Hankin property owners were required to return their development escrow And Hampshire Properties was required to fund the escrow. The same dollar amounts will give Hankin back his money, and Hampshire Properties will fund that exactly dollar amount. I will note to you the deed transfer tax that we received on May 30th of this month for this transfer of that property was in excess of $180,000.
Yes. Anyone from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor? I'm sorry, Mr. Okay.
John, can you elaborate
You
on
want
this?
your name and address,
I'm
please.
sorry, Barry Liver, 10 Foxhound Way, Chester Springs. Can you elaborate on that paving for, first of all, was that on the original engineered plan from the last administration when we did all the roads? Was Weatherstone on the list of the roads that really needed paved? They had a prioritized list. Was Weatherstone on that?
I don't recall. Probably it was, but it was down low. We decided to do Weatherstone. It had been a minimum of 10 years. It's all the roads had been paved there. Some of them were, when you're looking at a road maintenance schedule, we felt that the paving in Weatherstone was getting to the point where within the next 2 or 3 years, you start to see some significant deterioration in the road bed. We felt it was important to treat that road, all the roads into development, so it could shorten the time period without paving the road again. We decided not to do tar and chip. It's just not applicable in a road that has curbing like that. It's a new product. It uses a lot of asphalt emulsion. They put down asphalt first, and then they roll the stone over it. Second, it is a flexible pavement, so it moves a little bit with the weather. And it is very good and durable road surface with heavy volume of traffic. So we want to look at it. We think it's a good product to use elsewhere in the township. We are paving this year, spending about a little more than $1 million to pave several roads in the township that were very high on the list. We will be paving some additional roads next year, and we believe that'll take care of the top 10 or 15 roads in the township that needed to be paved. The reason why we didn't do everything this year is the highway department didn't have enough time to replace all the storm drainage in the roads that'll be done next year. They'll do that work over the winter. The roads will settle a little bit, and we'll pave those roads next year.
Okay, I looked at that asphalt and I saw it was fairly low on emulsion. And if you compare it to what paving is in Weatherstone,
right.
There's a lot of cratering, like between the aggregate, there's big gaps of emptiness in there. And I'll bet any one of you guys up there, $10, that's not the last 5 years.
Well,
I think ICE is going to get in there and start moving.
It
looks like the base coat. It doesn't look like the finish coat.
It's not designed to be looking like asphalt like you'd see out on the road here. It used a bigger aggregate. It's 3/4 of an inch top base, and the aggregate's bigger than the 9 millimeters.
No, it definitely is not as big as like an airport things.
No, it's not.
Big. The problem is it's not filled in. So there's a lot of gaps where water's going to get in, and it's going to ice and it's going to push it out. Like I said, I'm not a betting man, but I bet it ain't going to last 25 years. So
Then I didn't say it would last 25 years. I said it would last 10 to 15. 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just my observation.
Thank you.
On the Hampshire resolution, I am still not seeing the exhibit A. I know that John and Mark have seen it, which includes the items and completion date, and I just want to make sure I see that.
We have that as a standard land development agreement. And you had asked for the time frame. It is 1 year. Usually you have a land development agreement that requires improvements to be constructed in 1 year, and then if you're not able to do that, you've got to provide financial security. So this is the standard form that we have. So there's not an ultimate time limitation on it as long as financial security is there for the public improvements. Well, it's, they have to maintain financial security up to 110%, so that actually changes throughout the years as the cost for construction comes up.
Good? Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Next is discuss the proposal from the Lobar Site Development Court.
We only did approve the resolution for Hampshire. I now make the motion to approve the release of the Hankin letter of credit for $140,733.74.
Thank you for that point.
So what we're doing is transferring the escrow from Hankin to
Sorry.
Hampshire. Yeah, thank you.
I will second that.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next, accept proposal from Lobar Site Development Corp. in the amount of $134,404.44 for the repairs to the Fellowship Road culvert.
I so moved.
Good.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
How soon will we get started?
Within a month,
Wow.
6 weeks.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, new business, approved resolution 20-2022, accepting the dedication right away along St. Matthews Road, Great Bone Road, and the trail easement across the property at 613 St. Matthews.
We'll try that again. I so moved.
I didn't see the other.
And I will also second that.
Very good. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in
I
favor?
had this
Aye.
last 21.
Authorize update to ordinance number 41,
Is that
set
what this one
compensation of supervisors in accordance with the
So this
Class
one-
Township Code, with the township's
Since I got
population
last
now
minute,
exceeding
it's
6,000. The maximum salary for a supervisor can be $2,500 annually for all supervisors elected after January 1st of 2021.
Congratulations, Dan.
I get to buy the next round of drinks.
Mark, speaking, when we're recuse yourself from this vote.
No, well, this would be to authorize me to advertise an
You had to
ordinance.
update, yeah.
Okay, and if anyone's wondering, the census was 6,668.
Human.
Yeah. Good job. Okay, motion.
I make the motion to authorize an update to ordinance number 41 to set the compensation of supervisors in accordance with the second-class township code to $2,500 annually for all supervisors elected after 1/1/21.
And I will second
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, 13, authorize the acquisition of signage for the Opelika Park at the cost not to exceed $15,000.
I will make that motion.
And I will second that.
Any discussion?
We got some pretty pictures. We
That's
might as well
something to show
show.
here
Yeah,
too.
okay.
This would be the entry sign into the park. It's what, 4x6, 4x8. Then the next one. Want to go up to the next page?
Yeah. Hold on just a second.
And these are examples of some of the signs that'll be in the interior of the park. Some will be, there may be more exit signs, more parking signs. These will just be the one sign will fit all. Yes, ma'am.
Julie Randall, 2470 Pine Street Bridge. Does that $15,000 include all of the other signage in the park?
Yes, it's not, it's all the signage that we think we'll need, not all the
Not
signage.
just the sign that's sitting in the front?
That's correct.
Okay, and then what are they made out of?
These are, I believe, aluminum, and the major sign is crafted,
It's, I mean, the other one is textured with like a wood grain finish.
Right.
And it's all.
plastic.
But it's not something that's gonna have to be like repainted every
Oh, no,
couple
no.
years or something like that, and last forever?
Yes.
No, we were trying to get posts that would also be, last forever, but unfortunately, the supply chain would be waiting another year to get. So we're actually using stained wood for the posts, unfortunately. But it's pressure treated.
Anyone else?
Oh, did I make that? I'll read the whole thing. Yeah, I think we did. We did it, then we just stopped and looked at the picture.
Oh, yes, okay, all in favor? Aye. Next, authorized purchase of Swenson Cross conveyor from PM Cooks Inc. in Public Works in the amount of $11,077.
I love this. I make the motion to authorize the purchase of a Swenson Cross conveyor from PM Cooks Inc. for the Public Works Department in the amount of $11,077. The reason I love it is it's a very complicated engineering picture to understand how it works.
Yeah, but it would save a ton of money, a ton of labor.
And time.
And I'll second.
Okay. John, do you want to explain it any further than I have?
Sure. As you realize, the dump truck only dumps one way at the bottom. It's very difficult when you're working on roadsides or an area that you need a lot of material that you have to move from one spot to another, especially if we don't have a skid steer. The conveyor fits on the back of the dump truck, dumps into the conveyor, and the conveyor moves it along the side and dumps it off to the side, either side of the truck that you need it. I've seen it used a number of times in a number of municipalities I've worked in, and it is a huge labor saver.
Anything?
It's exciting.
Yeah. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next, accept the proposal for replacement of the telephone system in the amount of $5,200.
So
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
And we really need that. Our phones are really making our staff crazy, and that's probably affecting the public too. So.
Okay. Next, appoint Jim Berge as the interim chair of the Open Space Review Board.
I make that motion to appoint Jim Berge as the interim chair of the Open Space Review Board.
And I will second that.
And I will clarify that this is only until the Open Space Review Board meets to do reorganization, to elect their own new chairperson and vice chair.
Correct. Any discussion?
Just a question. Peggy Glazer, 2990 Horseshoe Trail.
Thank you.
This Open Space Review Board, I'm just not familiar with it, will they be reviewing things like the proposal that we saw tonight for that development? Because there was some open space I noticed in the plan.
No.
Yeah, no, they deal with open space that they hope that they can preserve. This is already sold off, and the owner of the property was not going to allow it just to be used for open space. So that kind of ties their hands.
The Open Space Review Board makes recommendations to the board about supporting easements on properties or buying the development rights off of properties, but it doesn't usually come to play in subdivisions. It's about particular properties and parcels. Happy to explain more. It meets on the 4th Tuesday here at 7 o'clock.
And if there's opportunity for conservation to certainly get involved, absolutely. It's not over till it's over, right?
Yeah, the more of that, the better.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next, appoint Jim Winnicliff to the Open Space Review Board for the term ending in 12/31 of 23.
Okay, my book says 24.
So, okay. Kath, do we?
24.
It's 24? Okay.
I make the motion to appoint Jim Wendell Gass to the Open Space Review Board for the term ending 12/31/2024.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Next, appoint Richard, who goes by Rodman Austin, to the Human Relations Commission for the term ending in 12/31 of 23.
I so move.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. And I'm very happy with finally filling that gap on that commission.
Okay, let's see, authorization of the creation of the position of corporal in the police department.
I make the motion to authorize the creation of the position of corporal in the police department.
I would second that. I
Okay,
don't know if you
any
want
dis-
to explain, why we're doing that.
The police department consists of what they call two platoons. One works day shift, the other works night shift. Right now, you're a patrol officer, that or you're a sergeant, or you're a chief. So if there are 2 or 3 patrol officers working on the same shift, it says nobody's in charge. So the creation of the corporal position does a number of things. One, it allows a management person to be in charge of the operation of the shift. So if a management decision needs to be made, there is someone there who is responsible for making that decision. Secondly, it also provides a little upward mobility within the department for individuals who wish to see upward and get a sergeant, move to a corporal, move to a sergeant, and whatever you want to go. So it's more of the need to have management oversight on the patrols, each platoon shift. There'll be 2 corporals, 1 on each platoon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Julie, go ahead.
Hi, Julia Brendel, 24/7 compliance. Someone's being promoted from within the department, or are they hiring someone new?
No,
This is not
it'd be promotions.
Another officer.
Be promotions.
Promotion. 1 or
2, 1 for each shift.
No additional headcount.
I'm sorry?
No additional headcount.
Head count.
No additional officers, no.
Okay. Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Establish compensation for corporal in the police department at an additional 3% above the Class A patrolman's rate.
I so move.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'm sorry.
Megan Emery, 1506 Sheeterville Road. My only question is, why would somebody go for more responsibility for a 3% increase?
Power, that's the power. That's the
Well, because we have wonderful police officers.
We have to give them something, right?
It's on the road to sergeant too.
For another point. Yeah. No, I. Thank you.
Okay, so.
Okay, I think we voted on that. Right, we did?
We did vote on it.
One more. Yeah, so we're back to the labor agreement one.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Approved and updated police labor agreement. The updated incorporates the corporal position, extends the agreement of 12/31/25, and approves rate of pay increase of 4% for 2025.
I make that motion.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Appoint Roger Connie, who we call Connie Martin, as the township treasurer at a salary of $96,000 effective August 1 of 22.
I make that motion.
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Barry? Say it again?
Do I have to do name and address again?
No, go ahead.
What was the salary of the former treasurer?
Upper 70s,
Upper 70s, and we're in now what, 90s?
96.
That was a part-time position, right?
Increase? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Appoint Robert Nagel from Foxcroft Trail as the special labor counsel for contract negotiations.
I make that motion.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Acknowledge receipt of zoning hearing board application for, help me with this name here, Fracaturios?
Vegiola.
Vegiola, thank you. 3924 Powell Road, installation and in-ground swimming pool.
I'll make that motion.
We're just acknowledging.
Yes,
receipt.
yes, right, yes, I'll help you acknowledge receipt.
Thank you. And the next is acknowledge receipt of zoning hearing board application for Prater, 942 St. Matt. This is construction of the garage. So acknowledged.
Have your date set for either of those yet?
Not yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this portion is for public comment. John.
My name is John Eldridge, 1634 Hilltop Road, and I am an elected auditor. And I want to say I met with John Granger today. The audit committee had asked for three things: one to meet the accountant, one to meet the consultant, the financial consultant, and to look at the draft of the prepared by the outside auditor, which I think the board had approved at the time. And so John started the conversation by saying, since we had an outside auditor, we had nothing to do. The inside auditors, that is. And then when I asked at the end of the conversation if we could see the draft, he said, you have no more standing than any citizen in the township. So I guess my question to the supervisors, is that true? And if that's the case, I guess we'll just let it all go. So how do you, any response?
Should we ask our solicitor?
It is, the code sections in the second class township code provide for the board of auditors to be very active in performing their job with bonding and actively reviewing the finances of the township. There are provisions in that code which allow the board to appoint a professional CPA as the auditor. And if that's the case, it basically takes out the board of auditors and provides for the full audit to be done by the CPA firm. And the board of auditors wouldn't have all of the responsibilities and authority that it would have if the board would choose to go that way. So Mr. Granger is correct. The board did appoint a CPA firm to act as auditor. Therefore, the board of auditors has little or no responsibility under the second class township code. Certainly, I think the township allows the board of auditors to review the audit, but as far as performing the functions of an auditor, that's been turned over to the CPA.
You're required to have that.
Yes, yeah, you're required to have a board of auditors, correct?
Okay, so the question then is, the board at one time said approved that we would review the draft of the audit. Is that still standing, or is that, are you going to reverse that?
I think my question would have to do with what's the time frame of keeping the audit moving, getting your review, and I don't have a clear picture of how we would, I don't know how it would be enacted, how we would enable that. So I can't answer the question, John, because I don't know enough.
Where do
I guess the question is of intent, though, if it was feasible. I guess the question is of intent, if it were feasible, if you were able to complete the task in that time. That's what you're asking, for the intent, not.
Well, my issue, I don't know that I'm missing something. We were going to review the draft of the audit. They submit a draft, and in the past I've seen it, and it sounds like now I can't.
So you mean before it's presented in the public meeting?
Yes.
Okay. I'm still in the position of not having a clear timeline to answer.
Is that the something that John can answer? Because we don't know when he's getting this material.
I don't think it would interfere with the timeline. I think it could only help. I don't think it's going to hurt. It would only help. We're auditors here are familiar with the township. they're from out of state even. So there's issues that we can discuss. And we live here with these things that are modified accrual and then back to cash-based, back to accrual-based at the end of the year. I think it should be discussed whether these are credible accounting techniques or methods.
Well, that I think you can discuss in these meetings. You can discuss in these meetings. I'm sorry, I forget about the microphone.
Okay, I can discuss in the meetings, but the auditors are the professional financial people, which you aren't.
True.
And they can carry on an intelligent conversation about it, which you can.
Be nice.
What?
Be nice.
Okay, well, you people with degrees in accounting, certified public accountants, etc., speak up. That's my background.
Anything else?
What?
Anything else?
Is the answer yes or no, or is it on?
We're at loss. We don't know what to say. We don't have an answer yet.
Julia and Barry are coming to your rescue.
I'd just like to ask, I know we keep getting a request for a meeting with the accountants, and I don't think that's been addressed.
That was today. I
We
think.
did have that.
Well, we did, but they forgot to answer Jimmy, Victor, say, because he couldn't come. I was the only one that made it. Megan.
I didn't know it was confirmed meeting.
It was sort of, so I was the only one that showed up. To get all that negative news.
There you go.
Julie. Hi, Julia Brendel, 2472 Flowing Springs Road. So am I to understand that John, who was elected by the citizens of the township to be the auditor, is not allowed to see the draft of the audit because it's being handled by outside auditors? Is that what you're saying? That's what you just said.
He's not writing the report because an outside auditor is writing the report.
He said that he asked to see it and was told that he wasn't allowed to see it. That's what you just said, right, John?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah.
My interpretation of second-class township code is that once the township elects to have the books audited by a CPA firm, the elected auditors essentially do not exist. They don't set the rate. There are no elected officials being paid for the township, so they don't set their salary, and they don't review the audit. That they are essentially average residents like you are of the township. They don't have any authority to do anything. They don't have the authority to do anything.
So, but what I'm saying is all of the citizens in the township got together and came out to the polls and elected somebody who they believed was representing them as an auditor, and now you're saying that that just is not how it goes.
I'm saying that occurred. Second-class township code also permits the elected officials to select a CPA firm to audit the books, at which time the responsibility of the elected auditors ceases to exist.
Did anybody tell the elected auditors that they were no longer the elected auditors? Because, I mean, how does
They
that
are the
work?
elected auditors.
But
They are
they
the-
don't, but they
You
don't.
can have
but
an
they-
elected tax collector, but they wouldn't necessarily collect the tax.
But they do know, that they don't have really any.
And there have
They have to
been,
do, I kind of remember having that conversation that.
But do the citizens who are going out to vote for them know that the people that they're voting for aren't going to have any responsibility or?
Julia, this isn't new.
Well, I'm just saying, it's new. Well, it's new to me. I didn't know that, and it's new to John.
The funny part is that we have to do it, even though that's the case, we still have to have them. It's something.
Well, then you should.
They can't give it up.
It's the law.
It's the law that we have to have this.
So everybody needs to know that when they're elected and when they're running for, or these people that they're voting for are actually going to have no responsibility and not be able to actually act as an auditor.
But Julia, there are some exceptions, but at this point, we don't have them. But if Dana were going to have a part-time job with the township to do something like to be the assistant treasurer, then the auditors would be required by the second-class township code to set her compensation. So that we guys up here don't do it, but the auditors, the elected auditors have a role in certain circumstances. But I think Dana has enough to do without taking a part-time treasurer job.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think everybody that went and voted on election day had any idea that the auditors have no control over the audit.
I agree with you on that. I absolutely agree that we have not done a very good job any place in the state of Pennsylvania, the country, of helping people understand how government works. So maybe you can help us with that.
Well, I just think people ought to know.
Well,
that the guy they voted for.
You got it on the video.
Well, I think it's
Doesn't.
pretty, it's significant to think that, people go through what they do to get elected to that. Like, I'm looking right at Megan, and I recall spending a lot of time with you at a lot of functions, and we worked very hard to get that job, so.
So we've been rendered moot.
In a way, yes.
Yeah,
That's
but there should
something
be
to
a communication that exists that says, okay, here's the auditor committee rule, now that we have an outside auditing firm, CPA firm. Just seems, there's a lack of communication or cooperation or interest in sharing this information. That used to be a practice.
Right, it's not from this board, this is just what goes on in the state. It's not, it's not part of our duties, responsibilities, or our negligence. It's something on the state level. They control the elections and the positions and stuff, not us.
Well, because it controls the hiring of an outside audit firm, then it says your elected auditors are no longer needed. Except
The
one
code
year
says that
except-
if you hire a CPA, then the elected official shall not audit the accounts of the township. So once that takes place, now there are other responsibilities that auditors can take concerning the setting of salaries under certain circumstances. So it's not as if the elected office doesn't have any duties associated with it. The code says there are other duties other than auditing the books of the township. So it's not as if the position doesn't have any, potential responsibilities.
But John didn't ask to audit, he just asked to review.
The draft.
He wasn't gonna do anything, just read it.
Julie.
I'm just saying.
That's true.
Yeah.
The team is going to, the audit committee has asked for 18 months for review of the draft of the audit and the financials. And we're directed to the website, but it's, I don't have a clue about any of it, but John does and Jamie Picker does.
And there was a time when they redid the audit based on my comments. They took it back and changed it. Because it was incorrect. So.
I'm very liberal. I'm not sure how long my friend John over there, who we disagree politically, but otherwise good friends, has been a CPA, what's it been, about 150 years? Yeah. He did it on clay tablets in Roman numerals. And John did, in fact, get the chance to do those things and did great things under the last administration, which was a very open administration, where John was able to do things. And they did take a lot of his advice because he is a very qualified and skilled and seasoned person with numbers. I don't think there should be an issue with that in order of transparency, which has been sold to us, that he should be allowed to be able to see that. These guys should be able to make their input. They're still people. What I said is, under transparency, they should be allowed to see these things and make suggestions. You have committees for everything else, right? There's committees, EAC, there's Planning Commission. What are they there for? Make suggestions to give feedback to the supervisors and the manager, are they not? Then why wouldn't you use the auditors to at least make recommendations, even if you tell them to kiss off after you look at all the recommendations? At least they'd have the chance to do that. I don't see a problem with that.
Barry, they can make the recommendations at the same time. You do at the same time Julia reviews it.
Really, 10 minutes, 15, why couldn't they have the time to sit down and go over this? I mean, they're auditors, give them the chance to do it. I don't see a downside to it. It wasn't a downside before when John did it. John is a stalwart person for this type of thing. He's phenomenal with numbers, and as I said, he took these numbers before, brought them up in front of the board, and Mike Schneider and Dave Brown and John Jacobs, they all got the chance to hear this, and he took them right to the old township manager, and the township manager took them under advisement, and there were good changes that were made. I think it's foolish, I really do. My second question was Human Resources Board. Sarah, you said you're excited to have somebody new on that board, filling that spot. How often have they met, and has there been any cases in front of them yet?
We've had no cases.
There was one potential. There was one potential.
And it was withdrawn.
Mm-hmm. And how long have they been?
Well, they've been in existence since like January.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I got. Appreciate it.
George.
Not about George Elchinos.
Where do you live?
Burke Drive.
Come on, give it up, give it up.
I talked to Ed Durkoff. He did a presentation to the planning commission and made some proposals for zoning amendments for Lovery's Corner. Can we post that document? That he said he presented a document.
Yes, I got it.
I think in general, actually, a more general question is why not just have an area for public meetings, especially planning and obviously supervisors, where we can just post submitted documents. Everything comes in electronically.
It's on the website.
So it's already there?
Well, it should be.
Okay.
I'll bet you.
Okay, but I mean, in general, we should
it's
post
under
everything.
Each committee. It's not just that here's everything that's
No,
presented
okay.
to any committee.
Sure, you can organize them however you want, but.
That's how it is now, George. Sorry.
So everything that's presented now.
Well, when these people said that what we got from McKee will be on the website tomorrow, it will be on the website tomorrow under the Board of Supervisors because it was presented to the Board of Supervisors.
For last week's planning commission meeting, you're saying they're already there now.
It should be.
That's pushing it.
And John said that.
But
I'll take care of it tomorrow.
But your goal is to post everything that gets presented. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing none, move to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn. Thank you all.
Megan. Megan.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
I don't.
That one I do not have.
Charles people that live on 1611 King. And we're like right around the corner from the bridge. So can you tell, I noticed they finished the paving over in the, so what else is going to be happening there? Underneath the bridge, they might still be working underneath the bridge.
Yeah.
They wanted to stonework, they wanted to work the wall first. Right.
So go to the webpage, the last time the permits were posted was January 2022.
All the permits,
Now,
our
the
permit
other
coordinator,
things that you're talking about happening along the
so I can make sure he gets
Check,
that.
because I would expect it to be a couple of months.
Yeah. So what's exactly?
I did,
January, okay. I'll talk to Jason.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Taylor's house on the right. That bank is going to cut back. A swale in, but also a pipe. Right along the road? Right along the road. Okay. Most of that, that's where most of that work is going to be done. There'll be cross pipes to be replaced. Now, down by the bridge, there'll be I don't think there's cross pipe there, but they're gonna put a cross pipe in. Guys on the water put a cross pipe.
Oh, so, well, they do that by the bridge, that means the bridge is still gonna be, it's still gonna be closed for, what?
No, they'll be open.
Well, I mean, when's that gonna